Hello everyone and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am the Outback Al.
I'm hot for justice.
And I'm in Jitters.
And we're here, I think this is the last day. This is the last day of
Yep.
us doing our top fives from before.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm finishing it out. This is my number one anime, my favorite anime of all time. For now. I mean, I think I said during the thing that it kind of constant changes for me, but this is honestly my most consistent number one. So
And it's considered one of the greatest anime of all time. So.
Yeah, bit of a cliche for your favorite to be. It's kind of like being like, oh, my favorite movie, Citizen Kane. I'm like, it's not for me. I actually find the movie, I find it a technical masterpiece, but it's kind of boring narratively. But yeah, so my number one is Cowboy Bebop, and this is like kind of just, I don't know if it's the perfect show for everyone, but it's kind of the perfect show for me for a number of reasons we can get into. But like, what have you guys seen of this show?
I've seen the whole series, including the movie.
Okay.
I've seen the first 3 episodes.
Okay, well, like, I'm gonna be honest here. I'm most interested then to hear what Gav thought of this, because this is, like, your first time watching.
I thought it was okay. Like, it was... I thought
Just
the
an arrow to the
music
heart,
was,
sorry.
Like, the music was really good.
Yep. It's Yoko Kanno, who, I just look up her, like, Wikipedia. She's done so many things.
Yeah, like, the music and the animation are really good. And I think that it's definitely, like, interesting. I'm not sure, like, I think I'd have to watch more to know how I feel more about it. Especially because, like, I was kind of like, I've had a lot going on lately, so it's like trying to watch something in the middle of, like, everything else. It's kind of, like, hard to, like, really get myself wrapped into stuff.
I get that.
But like, it was so good. Like, I, definitely liked Spike. I thought Spike was cool, and he was, like, an interesting character. And Jet was fun. And I've only seen, like, a little bit of, like, Faye, because they just, like, introduced her in the 3rd episode. But
Yeah, they're kind of
cute.
dropping in, like, the main cast in the early
Yeah.
episodes. You like get to meet Spike and Jet, and then you get to meet Ayn in the 2nd episode, and then Honky Tonk Woman introduces Faye.
Yeah.
I think Ed, the 4th member of their crew, I forget which episode number it is. He shows up.
It's later on in the show. Like I think
She
it's,
shows
like,
up,
I want
but-
to say it's in the halfway point, but I could be wrong.
I think it's a little bit before that, because Ed, I think Ed was around before they introduced Vicious. But yeah, so I don't know whether to talk about just the 3 episodes or just the show in general here, because like it's been out for a while, and honestly, it doesn't really matter what the episode it is, because this is a highly episodic show.
Yeah.
Other than like 2 episodes in the middle and 2 episodes at the end, there's no real like overarching story.
I mean, you
Like-
could kind of maybe say the Vicious stuff, like Spike's
Those
Pass
are the
and
2.
Vicious
Those like
and-
the 3 to 4 episodes I'm talking about. Like Jupiter Jazz and the no, not Jupiter Jazz. No, wait, is it Jupiter? I forget a lot of names. The names are good, and like they all have to do with like all of the different styles of music and like the genres that they're working with. Hang on. Yeah, Jupiter Jazz parts 1 and 2. And the last episode, sorry, I need to look up the episode list just to have all the names of the episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
You
last
say it was
2,
Yoko Ono?
Yoko Kanno.
the Real Folk
Oh.
Blues. So those 4 episodes are really the only like major continuity or like are like larger story for
Yeah.
the series, and it mostly just has to do with
Yeah.
Spike's past with the Syndicate and Vicious and Julia and all that stuff. So
Yeah, the show is, like you said, it's very episodic, and it is very. If you, it basically, I think your enjoyment of the show is 2 things. 1, if you like the characters and the interactions with each other, and 2, if you like the style of, like, not just its world, but like the way it presents its stories. Like, it's definitely got a very, I don't want to say unique style, because obviously, steampunk and science fiction have been around a while, but like it's got its own just it's got its own unique presentation. I can't really describe.
I don't know that I'd ever describe it as steampunk personally, but I get what you're saying, and you're right. This thing lives and dies by the rule of cool, and I think very fortunately for it, I think it succeeds entirely with rule of cool type stuff, because like you're really dropped, just in media res with the characters in that. You don't get a backstory, you don't get like a voiceover saying like, well, here's my history or whatever, and like it's especially like all of them, you kind of have to piece together their backgrounds as the show keeps going, because no one will ever tell you where they came from, and if they do, sometimes it's a lie or sometimes it's a half truth, or like they're all very cagey about where they came from, and they're all just on this ship together, kind of like this.
It
this
honestly
found
reminds me,
family
even though it's
yeah.
two completely different types of shows. You know what it honestly kind of reminds me of? You ever see the Lupin the Third franchise?
I've heard of it, but I haven't sat down to watch a lot of it. But I've no doubt that they're probably similar in a lot of ways.
They're similar in the fact that, yeah, like a lot of the times the characters just exist, like they're on their adventure of the week, and you get vague clues on where they come from and how they met and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the end, I'm trying to think who we get to know the most. I mean, probably Ed. We know the most of their story because they're so young, and they, it's kind of just like, where did I come from? Who are my parents? Kind of thing. We get to know more about Spike and Faye and Jet. And Jet we might get to know a little bit more about, simply because he has a little bit more of a more documented history, I guess, because he was a former police officer, detective, and I mean, he's where we get a lot of the like film noir type of, like, in general, almost every episode is a different genre of movie that the director liked. Shinichiro Watanabe.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Kurosawa in a lot of ways. He's just like, I think he's just a big fan of like Western movies and stuff, a lot like Kurosawa was, because like, and he's just like drawing a lot of influence from a lot of different like international cinema type thing. Like this is a show, and it's perfect for me because it's a show, if you like movies, you would love this show, because it hits so many genres and so many styles. It's primarily a science fiction Western set to jazz music. Except the music also changes with every single one, but they cover horror, they cover thrillers, psychological and otherwise, crime movies, comedies. There's just like, there's
the
so
episodes
much
where
going on.
Ed and Ein get addicted to drugs.
Yeah, that's a parody of like, well, not even parody. It's kind of like it's from an exploitation film background kind of thing. Like, I feel like there's an episode, like, even if you don't love all the episodes, there's an episode in here that like you're gonna love at some point or another. And God, I don't even know. Like, I watched 3 of them because I knew that was like all I was gonna really be able to talk about with Gav that much as far as details go, but I like just wanted to keep going and just watch the rest of the series. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now.
When was the first time you watched it? Because obviously you might have been too young when it first came to the West, but like, how old were you when you first saw it?
When I first saw it, I would have been like 8.
Oh, wow.
And that was a result of like, I was just up late one night flipping through the channels, and I came across what I later realized was Cowboy Bebop. I did not watch it for very long. I think it was like it was the first episode of Jupiter Jazz, and Spike took the porn mag off of the kid who was trying to steal it from the convenience store, and I pretty much just saw that scene, and that was it before I like changed the channel, because I was like a child who didn't know what he had stumbled upon.
Yeah.
When I had actually really watched the show, it was much later. I think I was like a freshman in college at that point, and it was just like I was like had a little more access to some better sites for watching anime. Like, we had used YouTube a lot at that point in high school and stuff like that, but like not everything was on there, and not everything was on there in great quality, but like there were some more, let's not say legitimate sites, but like better quality sites at that point that I could
No, I hear you.
look
For
around at
pretty
stuff.
much all of college, I used Kiss Anime before it got shut down. So I
Yeah.
know what you mean.
Yeah, so that's kind of, yeah,
Truth.
and that was kind of like the point where I was like watching a whole lot of stuff that I was really getting into. I was watching like Darker Than Black and Baccano at about the same time, Gurren Lagann, and like how many other shows that like, because Netflix also just started doing anime at that point as well, so it was like also I could also find like high quality stuff there because I didn't count. But yeah, that was about the point where I started watching and kind of just fell in love with the series at that point.
Yeah, I pretty much. I mean, obviously, when I started getting into anime, obviously one of the first things people were recommending was Cowboy Bebop, and obviously you in college especially were like, "Dude, you haven't seen Cowboy Bebop. What are you doing?" So that finally convinced me. It's like, "All right, fine, I'll give it a watch." And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for the most part, I really enjoyed it.
I'm trying to like think. I don't remember what I talked about in the actual here are our favorites list episode. So I'm not sure what I should and shouldn't cover. Because here's the thing, if you haven't watched this show, go watch this show. And if you have, go watch it again. You know it's always worth it. Like, I'm really trying to like pick out like a favorite episode. I'm having a lot of trouble with it.
Well, I mean, should we at least go over the plots of the first three since that's what Gav saw?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, so we got Asteroid Blues, Stray Dog Strut, and Honky Tonk Woman, which again, each is their own kind of encapsulated story, which like I think is again one of the strengths of the show is like you're essentially getting a short film for every single episode, and it's got everything's got a beginning, middle, end. It's very like strong overall arc for each of them. Whether the characters are particularly changed afterward is debatable, but yeah. So the first one involves going after a former syndicate member who has a bounty on his head. He stole a bunch of drugs and is now trying to sell them with his girlfriend, and they're trying to get enough money to escape to Mars. And yeah, we're on the trail of them. And then it's the second episode. A guy who looks like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar stole a. Well, that's what the character's based on. His design. He stole an experimental corgi and is trying to sell it on the black market. And then in the third episode, they go to a casino and meet a. I don't know if I'd exactly describe her as a card shark, but Faye, who is very much in debt to a lot of people and has to work for the casino to get a microchip for a special computer program. All the synopses of these are so simple, but it's when you get into them, whether they become complicated or not, they're always fascinating to see what's going to happen. And because it's like the first one's very clearly a Western. It's a very much just a Western like bounty hunter story. The second one is kind of just a comedy of errors. And the third one is almost a heist type film a little bit, at least by the end of it. Yeah, I don't know which of those three was your favorite, Gav.
I like the first one. I mean,
Yeah,
I liked, I guess the whole like, God, I can't remember, like the whole eye like thing.
the
with
red eye stuff.
With the when he took it and his like vision was like red and the effects like it was showing how like slow. I don't know if that was like supposed to be like what he was actually seeing or if it was just like, oh, look at these cool effects that are red because red eye. Like,
I think the idea was that was what he was seeing, but like that's a thing. Like they do get pretty experimental at times with how they decide to either tell the story or show the story or whatever else. Because like there's a number of other spots where like stuff gets distorted or stuff gets like really weird. I can think of like Mushroom Samba, and I think what is it called? Brain Scratch? Yeah, Brain Scratch, where they start to at least with those ones, I know they got pretty experimental with a lot of the elements of the script. Actually, Brain Scratch kind of reminds me of that one we watched in Anime Club, Serial Experiments Lane.
Wow, I want to watch that.
Yeah. I'm just going to go through the episode list and, like, I'm not going to, like, spoil anything because I know Gav might want to watch these at some point, but yeah, we had Asteroid Blues, Stray Dog Strut, Honky Tonk Woman, Gateway Shuffle, which I would just say involves eco-terrorists and a virus, so that's always fun. Ballad of Fallen Angels, where we get to meet Vicious. Sympathy for the Devil, where, oh god, that's a creepy one. Oh, it's fun. Oh, geez. I don't want to tell you about it, but it's like, it's one of their dips into horror a little bit, which is pretty cool.
I remember. Okay, yeah, I remember that episode now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I don't think it's as good as some of their other dips into horror, but it's very interesting. Heavy Metal Queen, which is kind of a road chase kind of movie. It's an episode, but it's so many of these are just like their own little mini movies kind of thing. Waltz for Venus. Oh, right, that's the one with the kid that Spike teaches kung fu. I will say no more because it's an interesting, like, that one. Honestly, that's the episode that kind of, like, all of these episodes, because I kind of said this about Fooly Cooley whenever we were talking about that, like, Fooly Cooley almost felt like it was just a couple episodes in a far different show where, like, Haruko is the main character, but we're just seeing these episodes from the perspective of the side characters. A lot of Bebop is like, sometimes you just end up seeing everything from the side character's perspective, and it's their thing of, like, see the heroes and what's going on. And, like, not to say, like, it's never from the Spike's perspective or anything else, because it is a lot of the time too, but I think that one especially was, like, Spike's not the main character of the episode. It's the kid. And it's kind of an interesting departure from, like, what you see in, like, a lot of other anime. I think Darker Than Black, for a lot of their more episodic portions, was like that too. I think I just kind of like that element of storytelling, of, like, seeing the main character from someone else's point of view. Like, not just, like, we know. There's, like, a level of, like, dramatic irony to it. Like, we're aware of everything that they're capable of and who they are and that sort of stuff, but, like, other people aren't, and it's like, how are they interacting with the world and that kind of thing. Like, I always find that interesting to watch. Jamming with Edward, I think that's where Ed shows up. That's episode 9. So, I mean, that's all you gotta say. Ed shows up. Then the Ganymede Elegy, which is, like, Jet's backstory, and him, well, he's seeing his ex-girlfriend. I think there's, like, at least 2 or 3 of his backstory. Toys in the Attic, which is their Alien episode. Yes, they took a whole episode devoted to doing Alien.
Nice.
Which is great. I love Alien. I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made.
I like Alien.
Jupiter Jazz, which, yeah, it kind of goes back to the Vicious storyline and Julia. We learn a little bit more about that and Spike's backstory. Bohemian Rhapsody, which that was the chess one with Ed versus the chess master. There was other things going on, but I mostly remember Ed doing shit. My Funny Valentine, where we explore Faye's past. Black Dog Serenade is actually, it's less about, like, going into Jet's past, but more of, like, his past coming back to haunt him a little bit. Mushroom Samba, which is just an exploitation film that involves Ed and Ein chasing down mushroom dealers, and everyone else is high.
It honestly reminds me. I think this came. I don't know which one came out before, but it honestly kind of reminds me of the Beavis and Butthead movie, where that whole desert sequence.
Beavis and Butthead Do America?
Yeah.
That might have come out before. I don't know. I'm not sure. Speak Like a Child, where we learn even more about Faye's backstory and kind of, like, well, I don't want to say, but it's also, like, a bit of a comedy of Spike and Jet basically trying to find a VCR.
Yep.
Wild Horses, which has a lot to do with like the actual spaceships that they use, especially like Spike's ship. And yeah, it's kind of like a racing movie a little bit. Like you see like, yeah, but there's no race in it, but it's got those elements of it that I kind of like. Perot Le Fou, the better horror episode, where Spike gets stalked by a deranged serial killer. Boogie Woogie Feng Shui, I'm gonna say, is probably the worst episode. Again, it's not bad. There's no bad episodes here. It's just, compared to everything else, this is the worst episode. And it's just kind of mediocre. It's just kind of about Jet runs into a friend of his daughter is looking for a friend kind of thing, and there's like a weird like feng shui is the force. I don't know. It's kind of a weird episode. It's all right. Again, not bad, just everything else is better. Cowboy Funk, where we get Teddy Bomber and Cowboy Andy, I'll say no more. Brain Scratch, where Faye joins a cult and everyone's minds are getting corrupted. That's the Serial Experiments Lane episode. Hard Luck Woman, again, kind of following Faye as she's kind of dealing with her backstory a little bit more. And Ed is kind of dealing with with her backstory and her dad. And after that, it's the Real Folk Blues, which is like the 2-part end of the series, finishing off the Vicious stuff and Spike and everything else that happened. And you can, if you want, you can kind of throw in the Cowboy Bebop movie somewhere in there.
I think it takes place in between episodes 23 and 24, I want to say. So, like, right after,
yeah.
like...
Well, it has to be before 24, because Ed's there.
Yeah,
so
like, it takes
can
place,
really
like, right
anywhere
before...
between 29 and 24. But, you know, I'd probably fit it somewhere, yeah. Maybe after Cowboy Funk.
Because I think I remember reading about that years ago, because, like, I think they said that it takes place...
Oh, no, it says here, set between 22 and 23, so it's... Okay. Yeah, so it's literally right where I said, like, right after Cowboy Funk, right before Brain Scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, because Ed and Nine are in that movie, and obviously they aren't in the finale.
Yeah. They're all really good.
Obviously, when we talk about Cowboy Bebop, obviously we have to at least, you know, pay tribute to the fact that, like, it was one of the first major successful dub. Well, I don't want to say one of the first, but, like, it was one of the... It was like one of those pop. It's considered one of the best dubs even to this day for a reason.
It is. It is one of the few where I think like a lot of people would be like, you know, watch the dub over the sub. Like I don't know that there's much debate there.
No. Even if you're a hardcore sub person, like, you got to admit the dub is really good, and obviously the rest of the cast is really good, but obviously Steve Bloom as Spike. That is his most iconic role.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was just like kind of the right time for a lot. Like this came out in the US in 2001. It was originally made in 98, like a year after Pokemon. It's been described as a
gateway anime.
So like this was like coming right on the tail end of like anime was becoming a little more commonplace in America. Like, you know, you had stuff like Akira come out and Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that. But a lot of those were like films that, one, didn't get a wide release over here, and two, were mostly art house kind of films that like a couple people saw, like people like me, film students saw or something, and didn't really get well known. You know, you occasionally get like a Ghibli film, but like even the Ghibli films didn't get like a whole lot of wide releases until later. And then you had in like the early mid 90s, like Toonami came out, and a couple of like the Saturday morning cartoon shows like Fox and Kids WB started like showing these imports of anime. Kids WB came a little bit later. I'm gonna like mostly say like for now is Toonami was the big proponent of this, because we got like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were coming out and shown over here. I think Pokemon was definitely the biggest one. That kind of, it was like probably like the first anime I ever saw and didn't even realize what it was. But I mean, Pokemon, we could have its own conversation. It's its own worldwide phenomena that blew everybody's mind somehow. But yeah, that's coming over, like, the anime would have come out like sometime around like 98, 99 or something, whenever over here maybe. And yeah, but like at that point, it's like, okay, you have your Dragon Ball Zs, you have your Sailor Moons, you have your, I think Yu Yu Hakusho might have been coming out as well, and your Pokemons, and if you want to call it Digimon as well, somewhere in there. But they were all, kid shows. They weren't, like, for a whole bunch of other people. But then, you have 2001 on Cartoon Network, same one with Toonami, they come out with Adult Swim, and among other, like, more conventional, like, American animation stuff. Well, maybe not conventional. It's adult animation type stuff. They also bring in Cowboy Bebop and a couple other shows that they're like, oh, hey, so this thing you thought was for kids is, no, it's for everybody. It's for, like, adults. And some of these ones are purely for adults. Like, I don't know, maybe some episodes, but I don't know how many, like, 6-year-olds I'd showed Cowboy Bebop to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... The first episodes involves a shootout with and just a bunch of people killing each other, and there's drugs, and yeah, I wouldn't really do that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
yeah, I think this was one of the shows that definitely helped solidify. Like, I don't know that it got America into anime, but it solidified that it would stick around and be there, not just as like a thing for kids, which I think
there's a reason why
is huge.
There's a reason why it's still considered like a gateway anime for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people say, if you want to get into anime, well, watch Cowboy Bebop. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Because, like, I have my issues with the show. I don't think it's perfect, but like, there's not a lot of anime tropes. There's not a lot of, obviously fan service, but like there's not a lot of traditional fan service. There's not a lot of, it's not like a modern anime where there's all these conventions and stuff like that, and it's like
even back in the day you had a lot of conventions too. I mean, you could compare like things like Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Sailor Moon, a lot of the things that were coming out at the time, and they all had comparable elements to them, or cliches, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, they were all there a little bit. I think the reason that this doesn't like fit into a whole lot of those like regular conventions is, one, it is more primarily for adults, so it's not going with a lot of the stuff that like shonen is generally known for, and two, it's an American movie, basically. I know it's an anime. I know it was made in Japan and all that sort of stuff, and there are elements of there in there, but like a lot of it is just like, this is purely based on like American cinema or international cinema, whatever you want to say. It's a worldwide thing, and I think that it makes it like almost universally accessible in a lot of ways that maybe some other shows wouldn't be. I mean, I've talked about, I said it before, like, that Watanabe's, like, a fan of a whole lot of different stuff, and I made the Kurosawa comparison already, I think, but, like, I know people who don't like Pokemon, who never were into it, because it's just not a genre that they'd be willing to kind of, like, look into. But I feel like if they can get past the point that it's animated, they could probably very easily connect with Bebop, which... yeah, it's not something you could say about, like, every anime out there. Because, like, sometimes there is a bit of a barrier of entry. For, like, if you were to, like, pick a show that's a little more tropey, a little more, like, you gotta be in the know a little bit. Because, like, there's a bit of a language that we all kind of have to, like, internally figure out, consciously or subconsciously. Like, action movies and romance and, like, all the different genres. There's a language to all of them. A little bit. And if you're into that genre, you know elements of it, tropes, all that sort of stuff. And if you're not into that genre, it's a barrier of entry some people just can't get around. But I feel like there's almost no barrier of entry for Cowboy Bebop. And yeah, like you said, that's probably why it's a gateway anime, because it's so easy to get sucked into. I think part of the element is it's so many different genres. Like, no matter what, you don't have to love every episode, but you will find an episode that works for you in it.
And that would also explain why, of course, Netflix is making their live-action adaptation this November.
We're getting into that now?
You might as well.
Okay. I don't have a lot to say on it. I really don't. I see it going one of two ways. It's either... Worst case scenario, it's Death Note. I'll say no more on that. Best case scenario, it's an okay adaptation. I don't think there's... Like, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of remaking stuff live action, especially after all the Disney stuff. I've never liked anything that they've done with that. If you're going to do something like that, if you're gonna remake a movie, readapt, make live action, reimagine, do whatever you're gonna do, whatever you're doing, you have to be able to add something that wasn't there before. That goes beyond just, oh, they're not animated anymore. You need to add something to
But then you get into situations where you get some fans that are like, oh, but that's not what I grew up watching. Why'd you change so much? That's not the same, damn it.
I get that. Go watch the original. I'm not saying that they shouldn't make live-action Bebop. I don't think it's necessary, because I don't think you can add anything to it that makes this readaptation... It's either going to be exactly the same, in which case, why did you do it? Or it's going to suck. And, like, either way, I'm just going to watch the original. I will give the Netflix adaptation a chance. I'm going to probably give it an episode or two. Just to see what they did. To see if they really do well with it. But even if they do well, this show is so good. You can't improve upon it. So, doing it again is pointless.
I mean, your thoughts are pretty much my same on their Avatar Last Airbender adaptation that's going to come out in the future. Like, even if the show is technically good, there's going to be the original. Like, you're not going to make it better.
And honestly, that's what I'm going to go back to. That's what I'm going to rewatch, because it's perfect as is. Like, I don't know, like, there was just something going on when it came out. Like, the writers were just in the right spot, the music, the actors, the animate, everything just kind of came together. And it's a little like lightning in a bottle. You can't recreate that. That being said, I will say this. I think the cast looks good for the live action. I think it's not dissimilar, and I made the Death Note comparison. You guys remember whenever we were talking about that movie, I was like, the cast is good. And the cast is good in the movie. The problem is the movie was garbage. Like, I still say that, well, one, Ryuk was perfect.
Well,
Willem
yeah,
Dafoe was great.
Dafoe, yeah.
But, like, I know we all hated on Mia because she was not Misa.
Yeah.
But the actress did good in the role. Like,
they did the best with
she's good.
Yeah, they did the best with what they could. Yeah. It's just Alex Wolff's character.
Elle was not...
that was not
Elle was not Elle, but the guy did good in the role that was written. The problem was the story was trash. Yeah. I mean, I don't really like give Light, the guy who played Light, a whole lot of credit because he was just kind of but I don't hate him, I guess.
That just wasn't Light hilarious to me. That was like
no one is anyone. It's a garbage adaptation with a decent cast, which so that's more than likely what Bebop will be. Like, I've seen the set photos. It looks like a great cosplay shoot. Looks like a fantastically accurate cosplay shoot. I think I could have used a little bit more yellow on Faye's costume, maybe like the pants and that. I know they were kind of like looking to cover her a little more because, like, honestly, like, who would dress like Faye does in the show? Nobody. I think the costume's good. I just maybe would have added a little bit more yellow in the pants. But that's a nitpick.
Yeah. And John Cho's a good actor. I think he'll be fine.
He
as
is.
Spike.
I like him in a lot of stuff. Like, if you were going to do a live action adaptation, I mean, I hate to say it, but the guy who should have played him, I think he's been dead for a while. Hang on, give me 1 second. He was a movie star in Japan called Yasuku Matsuda. And if you look up Google image any pictures of him, you're like, oh yeah, that's 110% Spike. Yeah, he died in 1989, like 9 years before the show came out. So there was no way you were ever going to get the perfect actor for it. Not to say that John Cho is going to do a bad job. I just...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good cast, but it's either going to be a good cast in a terrible movie or a good cast in a mediocre movie. And either way, I don't give a shit.
I mean, they haven't even released a trailer for the show yet, so...
Well, I mean, they've been delayed for a couple of reasons. I mean, COVID kind of shat on everything, and then Cho
well, yeah, I know
broke his
that, but I'm just saying, like...
something. But
they said the show's coming out in November, and we haven't gotten a trailer yet.
This November?
Yep, they said it's supposed to come out some point in November. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I know they have the thumbnail for it already. If you look up Cowboy Bebop on Netflix. Wow, really? Did not realize we were that close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if
they
it's in
did
November,
confirm though, and it's a good thing that Yoko Kanno is coming back to score the show.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's great. I mean, I'm sure it's going to have a great soundtrack. There are certain elements that you can easily just pull from the show, like the soundtrack. I know that they brought in Watanabe to be an executive producer, you know, and I really think that was just to appease people, because it's one of those situations of like, yeah, you're going to have the original creator have a credit on there somewhere. Executive producer doesn't actually like have a whole lot of power, depending on one, how many executive producers there are, and two, like who's making the show. It's they gave him some money for his blessing, basically. But here's the thing. It's been over 20 years since he's worked on this property. I don't think Watanabe cares. He did his thing, he made his amazing thing, and he moved on. So I don't think he cares or how much he actually consulted on this. I could be wrong. I don't know the man personally, but I feel like if he wanted to, he could have gone back to Bebop. He did a little bit. It was like he made that movie like right after the show.
Well,
but
I don't know if you ever seen Space Dandy. That's basically Cowboy Bebop too.
Yeah, but still, he kind of moved on. But it's different. It's Cowboy Bebop in a different light, and he's done a number of other shows that are all very different from it. I think he's one of those like guys who likes to. He comes up with an idea, he wants to explore it, and he explores it to the fullest extent that he can, and he moves on to his next idea. I don't think he's the kind of person who's just like gonna sit and revel in like the one thing that he did the one time, which is good because he'll keep giving us stuff that's interesting, and he's an interesting director and creator. But yeah, like I will grant you this: Bebop, when it came out in Japan, did not do well. It kind of got canceled in the middle of its run, and then they had to like release the second half of the show like on DVD. Because the networks kind of pulled it for like the content. But it is one of the most popular anime on this side of the world. And I think if he really wanted to, he easily could have like tried to make a sequel series or whatever else. But he didn't. And I think that's a result of he did what he wanted to do and he's done with it. Again, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I don't know the guy, but I don't know. That seems like what he would kind of... it's at least what I think is the situation. So, I think, yeah, I think that's about the extent of the Netflix adaptation.
There's obviously one big thing we forgot to talk about when it comes to Cowboy Bebop. Tank.
Fantastic.
One of the best opening songs of all time. I mean,
without doubt, one of the most iconic ones.
It's one of my favorites. Like, I can listen to that every day and not get tired of it.
Yeah. No, I mean I think that's a kind of a testament to like Yoko Kanno, because she was just like, I'm gonna score this whole thing, and you're gonna just love it. Because she like got together like a whole bunch of like musicians to
Yeah, they're
form
called the
the
Seatbelts.
Seatbelts, and I think I don't know, they might still be touring stuff.
Yeah, they did a bunch of reunion concerts, and they even did
Yeah,
like a during COVID. They even did like a virtual like a recording of that in the Real Folk Blues because they did that one too,
I
which is really good. ED.
hmm I not for every episode, but like, oh no, wait, that's not that. No, I do tend to watch that whole ED, but which kind of covers the backstory a little bit with Vicious and Julia and everything. Not so many words, but again, it's Bebop. You read between the lines a little bit. No, like, when we get to the ending though, I do make sure I sit through the whole credits and everything else with that, because it's like, we want to talk about getting a void. We've talked about that before. I'm always hesitant a little bit, because like every year or so I'll take some time and rewatch the whole series, and I'm kind of like, I love this show, I want to watch it, and I watch it all the way through, and then at the end I'm like, what do I do now? Every time it's like, now I gotta go live my life.
Here's a
kind of
good
thing.
question for you. Obviously, we don't want to spoil anything for Gav, but do
Yeah.
you like how the show ends?
Yes.
Okay, because I was in the minority of people where I didn't like how ambiguous the ending was.
I disagree. I think it's perfect for what it is, because it kind of comes in, the show comes in, you don't really know anyone and nothing's explained to you. But you go in, you live in that world with them, and then you leave without explanation as well. I think it's kind of perfect. It's kind of a poetic circle a little bit. And what else do you need? I don't think there's anything else to be needed. I think that's why there was never a sequel series, because like there's nothing beyond that point
I
that's
mean,
going to
I
be more
understand that. I,
satisfying than
I,
the
I
end of
know I'm
it.
in the minority. I just, personally for me, I'm one of those people that usually don't like ambiguous endings. I like more concrete, definitive endings, but there's some endings that I think work ambiguously, but I don't know. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of a resolution, like just like 5 minutes of what happened at the very end, like even like with the final shot of the final episode, like it just kind of like makes you wonder
I
what
don't
the
think it
hell's going to
matters.
happen next.
I don't think it matters one way or the other, because everything that happened in the show concludes in that one moment.
But like
There
even weren't
isn't
you?
anything
But aren't
after.
you kind of curious though what happens to that character at the very end?
In the back of your mind, you're always kind of wondering a little bit of like, what happens from here? What happens to the characters? Where do they go? What does the world do after this? But it also doesn't matter. There's like, and maybe I'm just a fan of this kind of ending, because I also enjoy Fooly Cooley's ending, and I like Code Geass's ending, and I like the ending to Bakano. All these shows kind of have this sort of like, this story is over, the world moves on from it, but we remember it. And even if we don't know what's going to happen next, the world continues to spin. And again, it's one of those situations of like, if they had more, I don't know if it would be satisfying. I don't know, because like, it's kind of a talent to know when to end something and to end it just right, because you keep going and it's like, it becomes too much. It's like, there are some shows that just go too long, and like they have a perfect endpoint. Like, I talk about this with Yin every now and then, because they're a Supernatural fan. Should have ended in season 5. I know there's good episodes throughout the rest of the series. I'm a fan of Scooby Natural. I thought that was a hilarious episode and I loved it. But from an overall story thing, spoilers for Supernatural season 5, which came out in like what, 2005, 6. They beat the devil and stop the apocalypse. You don't go further than that. I'm sorry. it ended on a perfect note. Except they left a cliffhanger for season 6. And then from there, it kind of went downhill. It had its ups and downs. I haven't seen the whole thing, but like I know like there's interesting parts of it. I know there's good story arcs in it, but like if you're talking like the big overall arc of the story for Sam and Dean should have ended at season 5.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of one of those things where it's like the audience has so many expectations, or not even expectations. They have so many like fan theories or like guesses on where it's going to go next.
And that's
if it
fine.
did continue, and like, but like if
that's fine,
what's in their head
around with that
would disappoint if it comes out or something like that. Like if it's not what they
well, that's kind of the thing. Like that's anything that you can think of in your head is always going to be better than anything that someone else does because it's perfect for you. It's like it's one of the reasons like I'm kind of a fan of like horror movies if they don't show the monster at all. And like you get that creeping dread kind of thing. Because anything I think of is going to be scarier than what you can actually show me. Because I have a boundless imagination and anxiety to build off of. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know that seeing the monster ever really like helps make things scarier a lot of times. Sometimes but a lot of it tends to be just a quick jump scare type thing. And I'm more scared of just the suddenness of it than the actual thing. So, and I think like the ending's kind of the same way. Again, it ends on a perfect note. Any more information is going to sour that note, I think. If you want to come up with your own information, great. Make your fan fiction. Make your theories. Make whatever. If it's going to be satisfying to you to do that, fantastic. I am completely satisfied by the end of that series. And then I'm sad because I'm not going to be able to watch anything else like it. So it's mixed feelings. It's always mixed feelings at the end of a good show.
No, believe me, I know I'm in the minority. I know a lot of people love the ending, especially with again, I'm trying to be completely 100% vague, but like I know like the final sequence where the one character goes to the one place and you have that music in the background.
They did the guy with the thing in the place, yeah.
Yeah, in the rain or something like that. I think that's what that song's called.
Walk in the Rain, yeah.
Yeah,
I listened to the whole thing over the credits. Got to make it to the end of that. Or no, yeah. It's Blue.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop's one of those shows where like I may not love it. I like it a lot. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate it, but I can understand why it's so popular and why it's so influential.
Again, it's like it's just I think it's really good storytelling. I think it's good characters in fun and interesting scenarios. A lot of them can carry some weight to them, like on an emotional level, and just everything's just tweaked to just the right amount it's the perfect show for me. And I'm a movie fan. It's all basically just a series of short movies in so many genres that I enjoy. Yeah,
You know, now that I mention it, I think I actually watched the movie first and then the TV show because I think they showed the movie in Anime Club. Yeah,
I brought that in. Yeah, which that's a good addition.
Yeah,
it's a good addition to the overall story. Because again, it's self-encapsulated. Like
I mean, obviously with anime movies, a lot of the time they have to be, self-contained, almost non-canon stories, and like, well, for Cowboy Bebop, that's perfect.
Yeah, it is. Because it disrupts absolutely nothing.
And I honestly think the villain in that movie is really good.
He is. And he's voiced by Darren Norris, which I'm always a fan of. So, Gav, if you end up watching the Cowboy Bebop movie, just know that the villain is voiced by Cosmo from the Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh, okay.
And he's also Gordy, and Timmy's dad, and Jorgen von Strangle.
And like you could name so many other. He's been in a lot of stuff, and he's always good.
Gordy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I recognize him.
I'm trying to think of anything else to talk about here. Like if I had ended up watching more and I had like not controlled myself, we could probably be going into like each individual episode if we wanted to. But like that, I feel like I'd rather if you're in the audience or something, if you're whoever's listening to this, and you're like, just go rewatch it. Me describing it is never going to be as good. And you can say that about anything, but especially this. Go rewatch it or watch it for the first time. It's it's my favorite anime.
And I imagine a bunch of people are probably going to do that for anticipation for the remake or the.
It's not on Netflix. I think it was on Netflix and then they removed it probably right before the live action comes out.
Yeah.
So that
I tried to watch it on Netflix and I was like, "What? It's not on Netflix anymore."
Yeah.
So I had to watch it on Hulu.
Oh, it's on Hulu.
I think it's on Funimation too.
Well, I'm not surprised that they have it as well. So Funimation has like everything almost. I don't know what else to talk about. You guys got any other things to say about it or questions or anything? Do you want to know what? And I might be wrong about this, but like, do you know what the original like premise for the show was?
What?
It was to sell toys of the little spaceships.
Okay.
They wanted, kind of like Transformers, they wanted a show. They had like designed these little spaceships to be toys and stuff. Again, I like saw this on the internet somewhere, so I might be completely wrong. But they designed like the Swordfish and the Bebop and the other I think phase is Red Tail, and I forget what jets it's called, but it's like a tow truck type thing. They designed all these things, and they were like, we need a show that features these to help sell the toys. And they went to the people who made it, and they were like, here, we just need you to feature these things. We don't care what it's about. Do whatever. And so you basically gave them a do whatever you want kind of thing to Watanabe, and he was just like, I will do whatever I want, yes. And I will feature them, but I will literally do whatever I want. And I think that's fantastic. They just let him do what he wanted, and it was perfect.
I don't know why, but I don't know why. That just kind of reminds me of back in the day when Batman Returns was coming out. McDonald's and Burger King were like planning to do all those big Happy Meal promotions, and then that movie came out. The movie
came out very dark. I still love that one as well. I really like I know it's not as loved as like a lot of the other Batman movies because it kind of made a very dark turn. Which
it's
is
a
not
Tim Burton movie. It's a Tim Burton movie.
The first movie's pretty damn dark too when you look at a lot of it. But yeah, I'm surprised people thought it was gonna be like super. Like the first movie's not like super family friendly. Like Jack Nicholson does some pretty fucked up shit in it. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So you can find those sort of stories like anywhere. I think I told you guys I'm listening to like a podcast, Rewatchables, and like they like have a section called Half-Assed Internet Research, and which is half of what I just said with the toy stuff. But yeah, you find out little things about like the background of like, I know you guys haven't seen The Godfather, but apparently like whenever they were making The Godfather, it was kind of like nobody trusted anybody else. Because it was like, it got passed around to like 6 or 7 different directors, and they were never settling on like one person. And they were like, because some people were like, oh, we can't adapt this, or I want to do this, or either that. They eventually settled on Coppola, and there was a whole bunch of different options for like who was going to play Vito Corleone. He was played by Marlon Brando, but like there were like 10 other people that were trying to lobby for the role and all this other stuff. And apparently, even like after they started production, people were trying to like mess with the production from the inside. Like I think one of the first guy who was editing the movie, he went to the studio and said something along the lines of like, yeah, he's shooting some beautiful scenes, but none of them can cut together, and it's going to be a complete mess. And the studio was like, shit. And they were like on the verge of like maybe firing Coppola. But then someone else took the footage and edited it themselves and like, dude, this edits together perfectly. And apparently that editor was next in line to be director. So he was like trying to like cut the legs out from under Coppola to take the position. And it's like, what the fuck with this stuff?
It's amazing how
Yeah,
all that
there's,
stuff
like-
can happen and the final product can turn out to be considered one of the best movies ever.
Yeah. You can get that, like, with... There's a story behind every goddamn movie out there, and every show out there, and, like, some of them are more interesting than others, but, like, there's always something fascinating about that stuff. So, yeah. I think I got nothing else. I might as well end on secondhand story about the production of The Godfather for this episode about Cowboy Bebop. Why not? Yeah, do you guys have anything else to bring up?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, are you going to continue watching this?
I don't know. Maybe.
You don't know. That hurts me. That hurts me so much.
I mean, not like anytime soon because I'm busy, but like
Yeah,
maybe...
no, I know your schedule really got packed recently, and like we got other things that were gonna be coming up anyway. So yeah, we should talk about that. So next week we're done with all of our top 5s finally, and we're gonna move on. We're gonna be doing some spooky stuff in October, but before that, Disney came out with Star Wars stuff that's anime. What the fuck?
Actual Star Wars anime for the first time ever. Like, yeah, people like to joke about the original Gendy Tartakovsky show, but like this is an actual legit anime that's being made by actual legit Star Wars Visions. 9 short films that are made by different studios.
And you said like it was like 2.5 hours total for all of them?
It's from what I've been hearing so far from people that have seen early copies of it, it's about the length of a Star Wars movie, so 2.5 hours.
I'll say that's pretty digestible for an episode of Anime Yay or Nay. So we're doing that next week, along with episodes 5 through 8 of Magia Record, because the final episode's coming out on the 25th. We're gonna record that day and like cover the second half of the season before, you know, it's... I don't even know what to call it. Like, when is season 3 coming out? Or like the final 5 episodes, basically.
They originally said back in July that it was coming out sometime in December. They haven't given any other information since then.
Okay. Either way, we got a little bit of time for that, but like, yeah, we're gonna finish out Magia Record next week. And the only thing that I'm kind of sad about is that because we didn't do it week to week, we're not going to have like the big like, oh, what's going to happen, and like the differing theories about stuff. But it should be nice to finish that out, checking out Star Wars and everything else, and then moving on to October, which I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the stuff we're going to be talking about then as well. We'll let you guys know what that is next week, so you guys can all check out the stuff. I think you're going to enjoy it, and I think it's going to be a nice like rewatch for a lot of people. So, come back next week to find that out, and come back next week for Star Wars Visions and Magia Record. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
No.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!